Hi everyone. Usually when people talk about dangerous animals, they mean predators like lions. No one will doubt that they're formidable, right? Or hippos. You just don't get in their way. Not to mention all sharks who don't mind having humans for lunch. But sometimes really dangerous living creatures don't have to be large. You know, with some luck you can escape from the lion. But what about insects that can kill you with a single bite? Today we will talk about small yet dangerous creatures living on our planet. Let's get it on. Freshwater snails. It might seem weird, but freshwater snails are actually number 7 on the list of the 20 animals most deadly to humans. This list also includes snakes, dogs, and people, of course, so you can say that snails are not to be underestimated. Freshwater snails are gastropod mollusks that live in fresh water. They can be found almost everywhere. Scientists know about 4,000 species that live in any place with more or less suitable conditions. In developed countries, freshwater snails can often be seen in aquariums along with tropical fish. Some types of snails are served in Asian restaurants, and yet these seemingly harmless creatures are really deadly. According to some reports, they kill about 10,000 people every year. Fresh water, where these snails live, is a breeding ground for a large number of parasites, including schistosomes, the organisms that grow and develop in snails. And then through the water, they enter the human skin and penetrate the body. Sometimes the infection can be transmitted through fish, but the result is still the same. This causes a terrible disease called schistosomiasis. Rash, severe fever, damage to the intestine and genitourinary organs, abdominal pain. Every year, from 4,400 to 200,000 people die from schistosomiasis. The disease occurs mainly in Africa, Asia and South America, and in terms of impact, this disease is second only to malaria. Tsetse fly. Unlike most flies, the tropical tsetse fly lives for several years. It typically produces about 4 broods per year and up to 31 broods over their lifespans. Almost every tsetse fly poses a grave threat to humans. Many species of fly carry various dangerous diseases, but the most frightening of them is sleeping sickness. A couple of weeks after a tsetse bite, a fever develops. A person begins to suffer from joint pain, headaches, and severe itching. In a few weeks or months, the second stage begins. The typical symptoms are confusion, poor coordination of movements, numbness, and sleep disorder. If an infected person does not see a doctor, they may die, and it will be very painful, even agonizing. In 1990, sleeping sickness killed 34,000 people. In the 2010s, this number dropped to 9,000 dead people, but this is still way too much for the 21st century. And although doctors know cases when infected people manage to survive without any treatment, they are most likely an exception. Box jellyfish. Box jellyfish can swim quickly, easily maneuver in the water, have several tentacles, and can kill a human. Not on purpose, of course. This species of jellyfish has developed a strong venom over many years of evolution in order to instantly stun or kill prey. Usually, box jellyfish hunt fish and shrimp, so the speed of the attack is of the essence. When you have only a few very thin tentacles, a good precise strike is your only chance to have any lunch. Box jellyfish venom is considered one of the deadliest in the world. It contains toxins that target the heart, nervous system, and skin cells. The sting of a box jellyfish is so incredibly painful that people go into shock, drown, or die of heart failure before they can even reach the shore. Those lucky enough to stay alive still feel pain for a long time, and have scars in the places where the jellyfish stung them. Yes, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy.
Wait a minute.
And although box jellyfish don't have that many tentacles, each of them has about 5,000 special cells that secrete toxins. Fortunately, they are released only by contact with the prey. Otherwise, it'd be really dangerous to swim in the oceans. Lamprey. Despite its truly horrific appearance, the lamprey is not only dangerous because it can scare a person to death. Seriously, lampreys are very creepy creatures that earn the nickname vampire fish for their feeding habits. They latch onto the fish to rasp into the flesh and suck out blood. Looking for a new scary creature for a horror movie? How about the giant lamprey? Although these creepy underwater monsters don't eat humans, and some people actually cook them, they are still scary. If there are any lampreys in the water, they can attack swimmers if there's no fish around to prey on. And although no human has yet been killed by a lamprey, who knows? Maybe this is just survivorship bias. Kissing bugs. Even ordinary bugs aren't exactly likable, but the members of the Triatomini family, aka the kissing bugs, are truly appalling. In some countries, they're even called assassin bugs, and for a good reason. There are about 130 species known to man now, and most of them feed on vertebrate blood. Some of them even eat other invertebrates. But the scariest thing is the diseases they transmit by biting. Chagas disease is a pretty widespread tropical parasitic disease. It's estimated that 6.2 million people, mostly from Mexico, Central America, and South America, suffered from this disease in 2017, resulting in at least 7,900 deaths. And these are just the reported cases. In the early stage, symptoms are typically mild and may include fever, fatigue, body aches, headaches, rashes, loss of appetite, diarrhea, or vomiting. These are common symptoms of other diseases too, so many people don't even suspect that they've contracted something awful, and it might be too late once they realize the truth. About 30% of the chronically infected develop heart disorders, and about 10% get issues with digestion, neurological system disorders, or other complications. This can lead to a sudden death years after the bite, for example, because the cardiac muscle has been completely destroyed. And all this is caused by one tiny, seemingly harmless bug. Sandfly. Unlike most blood-sucking insects, sandflies aren't very picky. They bite mammals, as well as birds and even reptiles. This tiny insect isn't so easy to spot either if it's not crawling right into your eye, but then it might be too late. There is a reason they're called the no-see-ums. Despite their size, they may carry parasites, which will cause dangerous diseases. For example, leishmaniasis, which might lead to horrible skin and mucosal ulcers. Add to that fever, low red blood cell counts, enlarged liver, and you'll realize the gravity of the disease. About 4 to 12 million people in 98 countries are currently infected. Among the viruses that sandflies can carry is the Chandipura virus, aka a genetic cousin of rabies. There was an outbreak of this virus in India in 2010. 50 people were infected, and 16 of them died. Most of the infected were under 14 years old as well. Rough-skinned newt. This newt isn't all that different from its kin. Many newts produce poison to protect themselves from predators, but the rough-skinned newt toxin is particularly strong. First of all, the newt exudes a really strong smell that serves as a warning for other animals. Something like, "Hey, I taste worse than I smell, so stay back." The toxin truly works only after you've swallowed the newt. It leads to asphyxiation. However, some people get a rash just after touching the dangerous animal, especially if they've touched their eyes without washing their hands first. But this is a best-case scenario. In 1979, a man died after eating a rough-skinned newt. We don't know why he would even do that, but just don't do that. Seriously. The southern short-tailed shrew. And finally, an animal that doesn't look dangerous at all. We mean not in the slightest. Oh, just look at this cute tiny little shrew. It's the smallest of its species and can only grow up to 10 centimeters in length, and that's with the tail. A tiny mouse-like creature weighing less than 14 grams can't possibly pose a threat to a human, right? Its diet consists of insects, worms, slugs, snails, and spiders. It stores living snails in the burrows for winter consumption. And while you're thinking this little shrew could become a good inspiration for the hero of a fairy tale, let us add one small detail: its venomous saliva. Of course, it's nowhere near as toxic as viper's venom. It's just strong enough to kill its prey, but it's not lethal to humans. However, the bite causes severe pain, and we would doubt that anyone would want to experience it. So don't mess with the southern short-tailed shrew.